Instantly, I knew that we were at war again. People were just displaced in the streets, lying there, some on thin mattresses, some with nothing. Hezbollah joining in is just one more actor that's joining in and one more step towards a fully regional war. It feels very like World War I, Bismarckian system of alliances, right? The danger with that is you send a missile to the wrong place at the wrong time, you cross a red line you didn't know existed, things get bad very quickly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you're speaking to us from Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, which has been under serious bombardment from Israeli military strikes since the early hours of Monday morning. Now, Israel has sent ground troops into southern Lebanon, but I wonder if you could just give me a sense of what it's like where you are right now, because you can quite literally hear the strikes, right?
Yeah, the first indication that the war had started was a series of explosions at like 3 a.m. I popped out of bed and instantly I knew that we were at war again. And everyone in Beirut remembered those sounds from 2 years ago. And very quickly, a sort of a warlike atmosphere sort of took over the country and the city. The streets were full of traffic, and I went to do some reporting, and people were just, displaced in the streets, lying there, some on thin mattresses, some with nothing. And these are scenes that we've seen before. We talked about 18 months ago, back when the first Hezbollah-Israel war happened, and it was exactly the same. And we've just returned back to the same thing. And so I think for a lot of people here in Lebanon, they're very weary of what's happening, and they're tired.
And in terms of the geography of the city, could you explain a bit about where the strikes are taking place and where people are evacuating to or trying to take shelter?
So the strikes that I described being woken up by were in Dahia, the southern suburbs of Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold. Since the strikes on Monday night, Israel has been hitting periodically throughout the day. About an hour ago, I heard a couple more strikes and we saw smoke coming over the skyline of the city. So most people in Beirut have fled from that area to safer areas, downtown, to shelters that have been
Right.
opened up. And then you also have the south of the country and the Bekaa Valley. And Israel has been widely hitting there, hitting over 100 targets over the last 24 hours. And people have been fleeing northwards, whether that's to Beirut or cities even more northwards like Tripoli.
And as you said, it's only been 18 months since that last conflict erupted. And I wonder what the mood is amongst civilians because, last time you reported there's a real sense of solidarity, that there were queues coming out of blood banks. But how does it feel for people now?
Yeah, I think last time, it happened with a boom. Israel just started bombing southern Lebanon and hitting the southern suburbs of Beirut, and people were shocked. It's nothing like that had happened before. And like you said, there was a real sense of solidarity, or at least a feeling that we're in this together, because it felt
Mm.
disproportionate. It felt like it came out of nowhere. This time around, this round of conflict was started by Hezbollah firing weapons at Israel. And this was in support of Iran. So now
Mm.
there's not that feeling of solidarity. And to many Lebanese, even people within the power base of Hezbollah, this was something that wasn't needed. Hezbollah didn't have to enter the war. They didn't have to drag Lebanon into a war with Israel and, cause all this destruction. And many people, particularly within Hezbollah's base, are, tired of all this happening.
And well, could you just explain Hezbollah in this context and their relationship with Iran, why they did strike against Israel in those early strikes in retaliation for the killing of the Ayatollah, and also, I guess, their relationship with the Lebanese people and the Lebanese government?
Yeah, so Hezbollah is a group that came out of the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon in the 80s. They were a so-called resistance group. They were trained by Iran, but their primary goal was to evict Israel from southern Lebanon. 2000, that happened. Israel left, and since then they've dominated Lebanese politics for the last 20 years or so. Now, what people are saying, what analysts are saying, that since the killing of Hassan Nasrallah and since the last war, which saw Hezbollah really just demolished, what they're saying is
Mm.
that Iran has taken a much stronger hold of the group. They've helped reconstruct it, they've helped reconsolidate power. And so a lot of the decision making is less in the hands of, the leadership here in Lebanon and more of the leadership in Iran. And so people in Lebanon are questioning, even those who support Hezbollah, whether or not this decision to enter the war was one that was the interest of the Lebanese people or one that was on behalf of their patron, Iran.
And of course, the group has been in deep conflict with Israel. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen fighting break out between the two. I mean, most people remember the horrific pager incidents of 2024. Ground troops have now, from Israel, entered in southern Lebanon. How do you think Hezbollah will respond, and what is the goal here?
Yeah, so I think, what Israel has done for the last 24 hours is they've issued evacuation orders for vast swaths of southern Lebanon. This morning they issued evacuation order for another 80 towns. Yesterday it was 50 towns and some more after that. And the effect of that is that they've essentially emptied out most of South Lebanon. And then they moved troops onto the border and said that they would advance further into the territory. So what they've created is an empty, let's say, swath of land near the border. Now, how Hezbollah is going to respond, we have to see. Up until now, they've just been launching rockets at Israel. But they this morning declared what they called an open war with Israel. Does that mean they're
Mm.
going to go and they're going to fight, guns in hand with Israeli soldiers in the south? I don't know. And another thing to say is that this group, it's not the group it used to be. It used to be bigger than most European militaries, strongest non-state militia in the world. But since the war 2 years ago, it's been pounded every day by Israel. So what can it actually do? I don't know.
That actually leads to my next question in terms of Hezbollah's resource and its capability. I mean, how big is the group? And given the absolute decimation of Iran's leadership, how will it fight this war, and how long do you think it can go on for?
It's a good question. Iran was its main sponsor. It used to receive weapons through Syria, but after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, it's not been receiving those weapons. It's not been receiving that money. And so it's a reduced, it's kind of a shadow of what it used to be.
Mm.
Nonetheless, it entered this war. And so the question is, what can it actually do to help Iran, if anything? The last 3 rocket volleys it sent at Israel were intercepted, didn't do any damage. But, something that someone said to me the other day, I think that's applicable is in the last war, everyone overestimated Hezbollah. They thought it was much stronger than it was. This time, people are underestimating Hezbollah. It might be a shadow of what it
Right.
used to be, but it still has the capacity to do strong damage.
And in the meantime, Israel has declared that it will keep going until the threat from Hezbollah has been extinguished. Will, if that's the case, how long could this war go on? And is there anything the Lebanese government can do to save its people?
I think that's what everyone's wondering. How long is this going to last? Israel's definition of Hezbollah being defeated might be quite a tough one. They might want to get rid of every last soldier, get rid of every last arm. So this could go on for quite a while. I mean, we've seen
Mm.
Israel bomb Hezbollah almost every day for the last 18 months. So for them, it's not a huge cost to continue. Now, the Lebanese state, that they're trying to intervene. They want to stop Lebanon from being pulled into a war, but it seems like it's not up to them. The army so far has not been able to stop Hezbollah from launching missiles at Israel, and Israel now seems determined to finish the job that they didn't finish 2 years ago.
And Will, finally, where does this leave the broader regional conflict? I mean, if Israel is fighting this war on multiple fronts, where does it leave the rest of the region?
Yeah, I think what's been pretty crazy to watch is just how quickly this war that was supposed to be just between Washington, Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Tehran just turned into a regional war overnight. Within hours, we had Iran hitting the Gulf, and now we have 9 countries pulled into this war. Hezbollah joining in is just one more actor that's joining in and one more sort of step towards a fully regional war. It feels very like World War I Bismarckian system of alliances, right? It seems like everyone's on someone else's side, and one thing leads to
Mm.
another. The danger with that is that what seems like a straightforward conflict at first gets very complicated very quick. You send a missile to the wrong place at the wrong time, you cross a red line you didn't know existed. Things get bad very quickly. So right now, there is bombing in Lebanon, for example. There's bombing across the region, but damage could be much, much worse.
Well, do stay safe.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.